Hey everybody, welcome to the season 2 premiere of the Marketing Water Cooler podcast. My name is Jeremy Francesi. I'll be your host, accompanied by Stephanie Yakovetsky, our producer. If you're new, let me get you up to speed. We launched this show at the back end of September of last year. We've done 3 episodes every week. We'll keep it going. And the whole entire purpose is to educate and empower founders and marketers for B2B organizations and service-based businesses on how to win in the current landscape as it relates to marketing and communications. This season be no different, and we have a lot in store, new topics, new conversations, new guests, and let's get into the first one. So what we want to do on this first episode is really set the table for the state of the B2B buyer's journey, the state of the communications landscape as we think about topics we'll cover in the future, from how sales and marketing can collaborate, how to bring humor to the conversation, how to do a lot when it comes to just winning in the current landscape. None of it matters unless we understand what's happening as it relates to how are buyers buying things, acquiring information, and going about that process. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Our hope is that you leave this episode feeling confident of, I understand how the current communication landscape is operating. You understand how it impacts your buyer's journey, and you understand how to build a marketing strategy, a communication strategy to execute. Okay. And so what we're going to do is start all the way at the beginning so we have context. You'll hear a lot of podcasts talk about strategies and tactics, but oftentimes we forget about how did we arrive at this current point in time. And so let's get back to basics. So all of this started, right, back in Web 1, right? 80s, late 80s, early 90s, right? That's where static web pages, couple publishers, right, and this whole online thing came to life. As the years tipped by and continued, right, Web 2.0 came in, late 90s, early 2000s. That's when everything really exploded. Podcasting, blogging, social networking, all of it, right? That's where we went from being able to look at content to being able to create it, engage with it, and be a part of the conversation, not just passively, but actively. Now you're going to hear some things about Web 3. That's another conversation for another day. But that shift from Web 1 to Web 2 is really, really important as we look at what's happening today. Because the truth is, a lot of founders, a lot of marketers today are, quite honestly, they're stuck in old practices. They're going about marketing communications from a standpoint of doing things that are ingrained in that old behavior. And so our hope is to recalibrate that today and through season 2 and all of the episodes, right? So let's unpack this, right? When the shift from Web 1 to Web 2 took place, one thing really happened, right? Out of all of the things, it was that creation of data, right? More specifically, the ability to track everything. It was amazing. But as we progressed through that process, there's some large companies made. HubSpot was founded in 06, Salesforce in 99, Marketo in 06, right? Salesforce then bought Marketo, right? And you see some consolidation. But these companies created technologies that transformed the way we organized our customer data, we marketed to our customers. It was SEO, it was banner and digital, it was email. Right? These companies emerged as a force of nature, if you really look at it, in the late 2000s, and it changed everything. And so at that point in time, companies were adopting technologies as a way to figure out how to track and understand what's happening on this web thing, right? We're creating a little bit of content. We were paying for clicks. We were trying to rank on Google. We were trying to show up on websites and pages where people were spending time, hoping they would come back to our website, engage with us, and then work their way through a funnel. But then we got to early 2010, and those digital communities started to be created, right? People started to get involved online where, now everybody's a publisher. Now I can talk to my peers online, right? Huge shift took place because what that did was it made information entirely democratized, where unlike the Mad Men era, right, where they told you what was going on with their product or service, they told you what the benefits were, and you found out by buying it, experiencing it, good or bad, or classic word of mouth. A friend of yours had made the transaction, experienced the outcome, and liked it or didn't, and the word of mouth came to you. But at that point in time, the information flow started with the company selling to you or the agency communicating on their behalf, and then it went to you. It was a one-to-many approach to some extent. Now it's a many-to-many approach, right? Everything is publicly available. Users are creating content, reviews are available, everything changed. But for some reason, so many executives and founders haven't changed at all how they go about marketing. Not to say don't go check out HubSpot or Marketo, but their first instinct is to, okay, there's all this data, we need to track this data and grab something. And the transition hasn't entirely been recognized, okay? So what does that mean? A lot of it's anecdotal, right? As we work our way through the data, right? Or work our way through the timeline. Let's talk data. Okay. So now that everybody's a publisher, there's more content than ever to consume. Let's look under the hood. Okay. So I'm going to pull up some notes, talk through a couple studies that we've referenced we talk about this with clients all the time, just to provide just the truth, just data, just pure, it's not about our position on it and Steph's position on it and your position. It's how are buyers operating when going to solve problems. Okay, so let's rattle off a couple. Back in 2019, Gartner did a study. They interviewed 750 B2B buyers. Okay, they engaged them to understand how are you investing your time during your buying process. When you're going from, I am aware of a problem, I'm aware of the category, I'm aware of the offerings. Now it's time to go entertain and engage potential vendors. Okay, this is what they found. 22% of the time is spent with buying groups, 27% researching independently online, 18% researching independently offline, 16% will carve away as other, 17% meeting with potential vendors. And when you look at that whole pie, okay, 17% of their entire process today, right? Well, this is 2019, is spent meeting with potential vendors, suppliers. Think about that. Before the information was readily available on demand, a click of a button, do you think that they were spending 17% of their time? They were spending probably 50 to 80 to 90% of their time with buyers. They were talking to friends, watching advertisements, and going to talk to vendors. That shift is everything. Because what it means is that the sales conversation with your front porch, that organization after the lead converts, it's not the first step in the conversation. 77% of buyers, B2B buyers, state that, and I quote, their last purchase was complex or difficult. Complex or difficult, okay? When we go deeper in this episode, right, 83% of their time, right, they're going out of their way to not spend time with salespeople. Let's just call it what it is. And I spent 5, 6, 7 years in sales. Small commodities, $2,000, $3,000, where you're selling 100 deals a year, to $50,000, $100,000, $150,000 deals where you're selling a couple a year. The majority of the learning, discovery, and analysis is done without meeting with you. Okay. Some other insights, right? We're going to use this just to calibrate the conversation. Trust Radius did a study, 2021 disconnect, B2B buying disconnect report. Okay, more recent. They surveyed 907 technology buyers, 227 tech buyers. Okay, back in, this was conducted September 2020. Okay, 33% of buyers spend more time researching products in 2020 than pre-pandemic. Think about that. Think about that. 1 in every 3 buyers is spending more time doing independent research, more content, more webinars, more white papers, more discussions, more work. It's just more work. The average buyer uses 35%, they saw a 35% increase from last year, 2020 up from 2019. No, excuse me. It was 2020. They saw an increase from 5.1 information sources up to 6.9 information sources in 2021. The question was, how many information sources does the average buyer acquire when they're going to make a decision, they're evaluating solutions? If the average company has 6 to 11 people in a buying committee and each person is acquiring about 7 pieces of information, that means there's 40 plus pieces of information floating around that discussion. Yet for some reason, so many founders, marketers, and companies use LinkedIn just to post nonsense. They put up a blog that's like the 5 best things to know about nothing, and it doesn't actually add value. All they're really doing is providing one ebook, maybe a blog, a demo and they're just hoping people convert through their ads. But we know they're going to get 7 pieces of information per stakeholder per decision. Where are they getting the information, and how does your technology stack support that part of the process? This is the one I'll touch on. And I think this is a piece that we really need to drill in on, because the truth is the way buyers buy is changing because the buyers are changing. Millennials are 2.2 times more skeptical of sales rep claims. Well, 60% of the buyers are roughly 50 to 60% of the buyers. I don't have that stat on hand. Roughly 50 to 60% of those buyers are millennials. Okay. 2017 Forbes article, okay, by John Simpson shared. I'll quote this. Digital marketing experts estimate that most Americans are exposed to around 4,000 to 10,000 ads each day. At some point, we start a screening process for what we engage with and start ignoring brands and advertising messages unless it's something that we have a personal interest in. Of course, that's relatively obvious, but here's the question that I want to ask. Do you think it's improved or increased in volume since 2017, 4+ years later? Okay. Let's summarize and then we'll unpack together. Your buyers are being inundated with information 24/7. A lot of it is advertisements trying to right hook them into a deal. Come call us now, book a meeting, schedule a demo, free trial, check us out. They're spending more time in these frustrating, complicated buying processes. Okay. There are more people involved than ever before. Of the people that are involved, they're increasingly skeptical of what your salespeople are telling them. So they're going externally to do a lot of the homework. All of those people are going out of their way to acquire information, to find their way to certainty, so that by the time they get to you, their lack of confidence and their skepticism of your sales reps ultimately doesn't play a factor, because they've already done so much research that they already chose you. You didn't convince them. Okay. So what's this all mean? It means that the way B2B buyers buy things has changed irrefutably, and it's not going backwards. Your job in marketing is to enable your customer through information distribution that's organized in a way that allows them to understand the problem, understand the category, understand the offering, and understand what makes you relevant in the conversation, so that they and their buying committee can make sense of the right way to solve the problem. That's it. And so when we step back and understand that, all comes down to one question. If the way buyers are buying things has changed, shouldn't the way marketers market change as well? And that's what we're here to talk about. This episode, season 2, season 90, however long we go with this thing. Because the truth is, there's a lot of companies that are going to continue to go down the path that they're going on. We have conversations constantly about this with clients. Had one as recent as Friday. We need more leads. Okay, what's the next step? We're going to invest in some technology, some of this, some of that. Great. And it's the same conversation we just went on. How does that support the way they're buying today? Okay. Steph, did I miss anything? I want to unpack a little bit with you. I feel like the purpose of this episode was just to get a little context, but I want to make sure we're getting through everything.
Yeah, I think we've gone over everything we planned on this one. I'm sort of wondering if you can define a couple of things with me. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about sort of how has the change in buying groups, has that changed from, 1 or 2 decision makers to more decision maker? How is that changed within the past, 10 years?
It's a great question. So I don't have hard data off the top of my hand. I'd actually be curious to see if we can dig something up real quick of just what we can find surface level, at least to guide it. But I think we can follow the track of I think a lot of this can be found logically. Think about Web 1. We couldn't contribute to the conversation. We could read couple publishers controlling the state of the internet. There wasn't a social capability where you're commenting and, that kind of a thing and producing and publishing. Then Web 2 came, social networks, podcasting. So my assumption is that based on the information I have and some of the conversations I've had, it's increased because now the ability to be an informed stakeholder is more open, quite honestly. Mm-hmm. Like a CEO can do the same Google search as any other person in their company. The other part about it, and stuff, this is something that, again, I don't have hard data, but I think people listening and watching this will understand, is the C-suite has grown so much over the last decade. The executive group has expanded rapidly. I mean, in some cases, it's a fantastic, there's roles that didn't exist 10 years ago. Last year, there was an incredible resurgence increase in roles focused on diversity and inclusion, right? That role didn't exist 20 years ago. So I think part of it's also that there's more people at the table, right? There's more people as a part of these decisions. So I think part of it is information is democratized, readily available at the click of a button, where everybody can come to meetings prepared to discuss. And I think the other part is that the table got bigger. And I think that in many cases, that's a great thing, right? I think that's a great thing. Diversity is great when it's diversity of thought, diversity of opinion, right? And not just in the other assets of it. But again, we haven't aligned to it for a lot of companies. And I think it's an operating system shift. One of the things we talk a lot about is, do you have an organizational philosophy on marketing? Which is such a weird question. And I've gotten some funny answers from it. From what do you mean to, to like drive business, right? Like what we are looking for when we ask you a philosophy of marketing, it's kind of putting your ego aside and understanding, okay, the majority of millennial buyers are skeptical of salespeople. They want more information to do their own research without the pressure of a sales pitch. They do want a demo because they need to see the live run. We may or may not have a free trial. We may or may not have a way to showcase our service offering. There's no free trial in a service, right? Unless you give away free work. They're going to do the work themselves so that when they get to you, they're confident in their ability to be in control of the situation. So for you as a marketer, you just need to make a decision. Do you want to support that, or do you want to stay in your own ways? Because if you're going to stay in your own ways while knowing they're going to get way more information to support their process, then are you really a customer-centric organization that puts the customer above all else? Because it sounds like you're putting yourself above all else because you don't want to change. Okay. And time will tell. What else we got?
I think we covered everything, honestly.
Works for me.
Yeah. I'm just sort of looking at some of our additional resources, this illustrated customer buying journey. It's if it was a journey in the past, it no longer is. It's mostly just like people come in, they figure it out, and eventually they buy something.
100%. When I was coming back from Connecticut, I passed through Jersey, and one thing about Jersey, there's no U-turns in Jersey, right? So
really,
the buying journey is kind of like that, right? Like, you know where you need to go, but for some reason, like you keep trying, like you keep missing a turn, then you got to go all the way down and take a right to then take another left. And like, it's all over the place. Right. Mm-hmm. And again, I think part of it is also that the needs of there's so many needs in an average organization nowadays. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't around in the 70s, right? I can't speak to the needs of a small, mid-sized business in the 70s, but you have companies prioritizing digital transformation, diversity, and inclusion. The marketing needs to be updated, but then doesn't the sales operations processes and the sales approach need to be updated? But then how can technology support finance to be more efficient and effective? There's so many parts of the business that need to be updated. The thing you need to ask yourself is, if you stop getting customers, does any of it matter? That's why marketing matters. That's why marketing matters. And so, look, That's the state of the B2B buying journey. That's the state of the market today. That is the world you are trying to compete with, to break through the noise, to connect with your buyers, to support them, or to try to attention arbitrage them, whichever side you're on, to grow your business and deliver solutions that create positive outcomes. And so if this makes sense to you, great. If it doesn't, stick around even more so we can help you, because I promise you, if we don't adopt this, forget 2022, 2023 and 4 and 5 is going to be a problem because it's not changing. And so with that in mind, welcome back to the Marketing Water Cooler podcast. My name is Jeremy Francesi, joined by Steph. We'll be back with more very soon. Hey, thanks so much for sticking around to the end. If you liked the video, smash the like button and hit subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the new episodes. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. We will fold them into future episodes and make sure that you get the help and the answers you're really looking for all things marketing and communications.